So, update on the pit bike. I bought insurance for this thing. You know, I was originally just going to ride it around here, around the local back roads here, especially the dirt roads. But this thing rides so well that I decided to go ahead and make it actually street legal. So I pulled the old headlight bucket off. The reflector was peeling, the glass was broken, the bulb was broken, and so on. And you know, I could get a new reflector and everything, and of course I'd have to convert it to 12 volts because this engine outputs 12 volts, and that's what I want to use anyway. So I pulled a bunch of junk off, and typical of Hondas, it had most of the wiring stuffed into the headlight bucket, just a rat's nest. So I pulled all that stuff out. I'm going to simplify the wiring. Actually, I've had it simplified as long as I've been running the thing, but I'm not even going to try to use the original wiring. Actually, though, this frame didn't have any wiring with it, but I had the wiring harness on it from the XL70 donor bike. But anywho, here's the fender from that. That's the plastic forward fender portion. This is the steel back fender portion from the XL80 donor. And that frame has a tab right here from the factory, welded in tab with a hole in it for fender mounting. And what happens is this section has a threaded hole, threaded hole, and this section, the plastic section, just has a hole that the screw goes through. It's a machine screw, and it goes through the tab and through the plastic section and into the metal section. And so I'm going to weld a tab onto this, and that'll make it about right. That will, you know, provide a mounting point for, well, it's got a license plate bracket and a mounting point for the tail light. I'm not going to use this tail light housing. I'm going to take it off and just put I've got a generic LED tail light. I'm going to put it on. And I've got an LED headlight coming. Should be here any day now. So I'm going to put it on the front. The horn works, so I'm going to wire that in. I'll probably put a resistor in line with it, so that it'll work on 12 volts, which I've read that they will anyway without doing that. But no point in taking a chance on burning the thing out or severely changing the pitch or something, because the pitch is pretty high even with 6 volts. So anywho, there's the duct taped seat, and what I plan to do is get a strap-on seat pad for it, since I'm going to be riding greater distances. See, the deal with this bike, originally, you know, when I first bought this frame, when I first started looking for one of these frames, the reason I even wanted one was because I was building the CT90. I bought a Honda engine to put on the CT90 and did a top-end rebuild on it. But I was really tempted, as I've said before, by the Chinese engines. You know, I mean, they're higher performance than the Honda engines. They're bored and stroke, making them larger. You can get big valve heads for them. Some of them come with big valve heads, but this one didn't. This one is, however, quite a bit greater stroke, longer stroke. The 90 is, I think, 45 millimeter stroke. The 110 is 50 millimeter stroke, and this is a 57 millimeter stroke. So that's a pretty substantial increase in stroke. That's a 12 millimeter increase in stroke, or half inch increase in stroke over the CT90 engine. So it's a 125. I could actually get a cylinder to convert it to a 146, I think, is about as big as you want to go with it. Anyway, I don't know if I'll do that at some point in the future or not. Good thing about this engine compared to most of them is it has the heavy-duty 5-disc clutch that is on the transmission countershaft, where the stock Hondas and most of the Chinese clones have the clutch on the actual crankshaft, and those are not as heavy-duty. This is a better clutch arrangement. So anyway, the point is that I bought this frame because I wanted something to put one of the Chinese engines in, and I looked at the CT200, which is also a Trail 90. It's a predecessor to the CT90, and that was the one that had the dual overlay rear sprocket, which I have on my CT90, but I'm probably going to put it on this bike. But anyway, the CT200 wasn't 200cc, it was 87cc. It was still a Trail 90. It was just the earlier version of the CT90, as I said, and did not have the low range box. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go with the real Honda engine on the CT90, was so I wouldn't lose the low range box. The other reason is because I wanted it to be pure Honda. So, but as I was saying, I was tempted by one of these engines, and I wanted to buy one and put it on something else. And I got to thinking, I could get a XL70 or SL70 frame and use XL parts and XR parts, XR 100 and 125 parts for it, to give it a longer wheelbase and put bigger wheels on it and so on, make it more adult sized. And so that's pretty much what I did. And then I started thinking, well, I don't want to have to buy insurance on this thing. So, without going into any great detail, I discovered that when I bought insurance on the CT90, I discovered that I could add this bike for zero added cost. So I did that. So with free insurance, for all practical purposes, I might as well go ahead and get a tag for the thing. So that's why I'm working on it now, to make it actually street legal. And I intend to be getting a tag for it sometime within the next month anyway, so I can ride this thing greater distances. And my intention is to ride it over to Bankhead Forest, which is it's a national forest. It's about 100 miles from where I am, or a little more. And lots of good trails to ride. So that's where I am on the XL70/125. Hopefully I'll make some more riding videos of it soon. Stay tuned. So here's a minor update. I did weld the tab on here and mount that fender. So I've got to cut and drill some straps to go from here to here, one on each side, steel straps. Otherwise it does this number. So I got to do that, and I'm also planning to build a rack onto the back of it to haul stuff. Stay tuned for more.